though, we can call them some Hoosiers because they like the Indiana side. 58% of bets, 63% of money on IU. Okay, this will be one of two sites that College Game Day and Stanford Steve will be at this weekend. Steve, I'll start with Joe, though, because I hear Fortenbaugh was on Indiana with the public for much of this week. Where are you at now?
I'm wavering. I haven't made a commitment to anything yet. I originally liked the idea of all those points. I think Notre Dame's defense, good. I don't know if it's great. We've seen opportunities where teams have put some numbers up against them. And on top of that, it's not like Notre Dame has a very explosive offense where they're going to roll up a big number. So 7.5 looks appealing, but here's the problem. The forecast is calling for snow showers, very cold temperatures, possibly some wind. When you throw all of that in there, you know Notre Dame wants to run the ball. They sit back on D. Is Indiana going to be able to get in there and bang in the cold weather with them and hang tight? That is what troubles me. That is why you have been brought in today, to help.
All right, a couple things. Go back to that pie chart. I think a lot of that money, those percentages, is people that are not getting off the Indiana train. Think about how good they've been against the number.
Great.
You're not going in, and Notre Dame's been fantastic against the number also. The biggest question in this game is, without a doubt in my mind, this is the best defense Notre Dame will have played since week 1 at A&M. Indiana, you say what you want. People are going to bring up the Ohio State game. I get it. But when you talk about all conference guys in the Big Ten, a conference that's known for defense, they got 4 difference maker NFL guys on their defense. Notre Dame hasn't seen that. Okay, now when you flip that, what does that do? That's going to put Riley Leonard in throwing situations where he hasn't had to as much as, opponents would have liked to be him. Jeremiah
He's been comfortable for weeks.
Correct, and he loves it too because he loves to run the football. Yeah. So what does Indiana do on first and second down in the game to put Notre Dame in a third down in a spot where we are not going to have seen that a lot this year? I love Notre Dame's defense. They're going to play great. They've lost guys too. I think 23 points wins this game because when you factor in the strength of both teams, I believe is their defenses, and now you get into the red zone. That's where defenses even get better. You got the back line, you got the extra defender. We've seen it for football in 100 million years. It's harder to score in there. And that's why I think whoever gets touchdowns and field goals, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of trips there. I think there's going to be defense dominating, and that's why I like the under.
I like a lot of first half unders with these games too. I think teams are going to come out tight. I think they're going to come out. The road team's got to deal with the crowd noise. Yeah. The home team's not going to want to make the big mistake early. I think you're going to see tight football. If it opens up, the second half is where I think that would happen.
All right, let's discuss the next game on the same side of the bracket, SMU and Penn State.
Here we go. Let's talk football.
Start with you, Steve, this time. Are you willing to put faith in big game James laying 8.5 here?
That's not a factor to me. Okay. To me, it's about the team on the field. And I thought they played great in the Big Ten game.
Defensively, they did not play.
You're going against the number 1 team in the country. I'm talking about offense. What has been the issue in the big games?
Offense, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, go back to Ohio State. Didn't do anything. Up 10-0. I do want to congratulate the people in Happy Valley that it is going to be a whiteout. It actually can be done for a day game. I know it's been a while, but hey, change is good. I know everybody doesn't like change, but you get your whiteout. So you got no more excuses about the whiteout versus a non-whiteout home game.
It's good PSA.
Enough. Again, about SMU. Another team. This is the best defense they're going to have faced all year. And what does Jennings do in this spot, on this stage? He's been terrific for him, brought him back against Clemson, but this is a whole different animal. When you talk about the difference makers Penn State has on the defensive line and on the back end, that's where SMU comes out and turns the ball over and plays sloppy like they started the ACC championship game, it's over. Because you're not getting the football back, too, because they're going to run it. And what I loved about Penn State, they threw the ball to their running backs in the Big Ten title game. They have 2 NFL running backs. Mm-hmm. If you can't run the ball, you have receivers that cannot separate, you got to figure out a way to get the ball to your best players. And they did that against Oregon. So I thought it was a good notion to see Kotelnicki adjust to that. I would lean towards taking the 8.5, but I don't love it at all.
The thing with the points is that Penn State could be in control of this game. They can be up 15 late, and then there's the backdoor touchdown that gets in, and no one cares because they're advancing and they win the big game. One thing that's lost from the ACC championship, SMU's run defense looked really good against Clemson. 2 yards per carry allowed. They gave up a grand total of like 64 yards. They were stout. If you can limit Penn State on the ground and you force Aller to try to beat you, and like you said, those Penn State receivers, they're not very good. It's about the tight end, it's about the running backs. You can create a situation where you can keep this game tight. That's why I've been looking at SMU, but the number just keeps going up. Some shops are at 9. I don't know if we could touch 10 at some point with this game, but I think that big game James narrative, which I don't think necessarily applies here, that's going to be a situation where the public might want to come in and play the dog. That's what worries me. There are too many people that are real quick to say, if any of the dogs win, it's going to be SMU. Why? Because of Franklin. That's troublesome to me. That's not a good enough handicap.
If SMU wants to be in this game, they have to score first also. They have to start
pressure,
fast.
yeah.
You got to start fast on the road. All these road teams, that's got to be priority number one.
We'll see if they learned about their start in the ACC title game. It was disastrous. Good rebound, but don't have that happen again, and you're going to be in big trouble. Spirited conversation, you two. We'll discuss the other two games later in the show. I'm looking forward to it. Closest first-round spread in the CFP is this one. Ohio State, a 7-point favorite over visiting Tennessee. Last time these two programs met, the 1996 Citrus Bowl, when Peyton Manning and the Vols outdueled the Buckeyes 20-14. The public liking Peyton's Vols here. 3/4 of the bets, though the money's sitting just slightly above 60% for Go Big Orange. All right, Tennessee, Ohio State, the second stop of the College Game Day CFP Tour this week, and the man will be all over the place. Does it surprise you to see so many people back in Tennessee here?
No, I think it's a classic SEC versus Big Ten. And when you look at the matchup, the biggest matchup there is, we saw what Ohio State's offensive line looked last time out. The strength of Tennessee is that defensive line. They'll play 8, 9, 10 guys up front, being on the sidelines for the Georgia game. They were there physically. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Georgia held the ball in the fourth quarter. They didn't have the juice at the end. I really like the matchup for Tennessee, and I just don't. What do you guys expect from Ohio State? I have no idea. Will Howard, as bad as you could be, throwing a pick and backed up, throwing a pick going in, your field goal kicker twos. Now you got to go back to that same stadium where those people had their hearts ripped out, and you got your heart ripped out. I don't know what to expect. How stubborn will they be with trying to run the ball if they can't run the ball? You got guys on the outside. You do have an advantage with your receivers against Tennessee's secondary. That's where you have to get. But are you going to go quick game? Are you going to have time to throw? I like Tennessee plus the points.
First off, game day going to South Bend, followed by Columbus. Next year, you guys are going to be pushing for Miami and Florida and LSU and USC to be getting into the playoff because this is insane. Okay, to your point, every gambler I talk to says Ohio State would be better off on the road for this game. That they'd be much better. Get away from the horseshoe, get away from the crowd, because you know if they start slow, that crowd's going to start booing because of the bad taste in their mouth. I think everyone's coming out tight in this game. I think it would benefit Tennessee to open it up and just come right at them in this game. But I think Ohio State's going to come out tight. Howard and this offense, this is not the C.J. Stroud offense and some of these other Ohio State offenses we remember. We think of them as that because they're Ohio State. They can put up big numbers. It's not what these guys want to do, and Chip Kelly doesn't want to do that either. Even against Michigan, he just kept running the ball into the teeth of the Michigan defensive line. I see them wanting to come out slow, hoping that Tennessee makes a mistake, lean on the defense, make a couple moves after you get into it, because when they were tight against Michigan, and as that game continued to progress, and they didn't distance themselves, they felt the pressure. I think it's going to be a first half under. That's where I'd be looking. Sitting on 7 right now with Tennessee. I just wonder, can Nico get it going? Because we've seen in these big games at times a little bit shaky.
And Ohio State's defense bailed them out of trouble against Michigan, getting the Sawyer interception. I don't know if you're going to be able to get those chances. You just got to play well enough to hang in there if your offense is sputtering, not give up the big plays, but then you wear down the fourth quarter, and Michigan runs it down your throat, and they kick a field goal to beat you.
Kicking game, too. Ohio State is, 2 field goals in that game? Can you trust that situation?
I have no idea what to expect from Ohio State.
All right, let's move to the Clemson-Texas matchup. And before we get you guys handicapped, Tigers head coach Dabo Swinney fully aware of his team's underdog status.
We're just happy to have a chance. You know, we're in there. Anything can happen, and so I think they know that, you know, there's probably not going to be many people give us an opportunity to win, and you know, so that's their mentality. They believe in themselves, and that's all that matters.
All right, Joe all shucks from Dabo, as he is wont to do. Are we buying that approach could help them win or cover?
See, here's the thing. Texas has been overrated all year. All year. We came into the season and we looked at what they had done last year, and we said this could be the year for Texas, and we ranked them high, and we kept them there. And then they had a big game, and they got their teeth kicked in at home against Georgia. And then, you know, they only kind of hung with one loss while all these other teams lost games, and we kept Texas up there. And then they played one more game against Georgia and the backup quarterback, and they found a way to lose that. And yet somehow we still look at them as this power program. Problem, you go to Clemson. I think it's a sell high off the SMU game. They look really good. don't forget the South Carolina game. What did they score in that game? 13 points, 14 points? And then week 1 against Georgia, 3 points. This Texas D-line can play, and that's going to cause problems. This is another one of those first half unders. It's 26.5, game under as well. This opened as high as 57. It's down to 51.5 for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest spread, you pointed it out. Texas's defense is legit.
Yes.
I will say that. Yes. I mean, you're talking about every level of guys. Everybody said, oh, they lost 2, NFL defensive tackles. They've played 4 or 5 guys now that have taken that spot. They got playmakers. They tackle so well in space, and that's where I look at Clemson. You throw all those comeback routes that Kate Klubnik threw in the ACC title game, came out fast. That's what Clemson needs to do in this game, even more so. How Clemson came out in the ACC title game was super impressive. I just think it's too many points. With what Texas has done in struggling in the red zone of scoring touchdowns, that's a lot to ask. Now, I do think their defense will be fine, but 11.5 in a playoff game. Klubnik, plenty motivated. Cool story, Klubnik and Ewers played in the state championship game in Texas, and now they rematch here.
Interesting. I'm curious because this is something I know you mentioned you thought you might see more in the SEC title game. The Arch Manning, the specter of him. Do you want to see more of him if you like the Texas side?
In the running game, that's what I thought we were going to get against Georgia, and then I figure everyone was talking about that, so Sark's going to have a pass play in there. But they don't go to him. And I don't think they're going to need to unveil anything here. If you're this big of a favorite and you're not jammed up, you're not going to have to go deep into the playbook. You're going to save that for later. Plus, the idea of what Austin is going to be like for this game. I mean, this place is what's the get-in price going to be for this game?
We'll have to ask.
Those people
You're asking the wrong guy here.
I was going to say,
if Texas plays well, they'll be fine. It's just, we haven't, to your point, on this stage.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yours has got to not make the big mistake early. You see him. He struggles early. He feels the weight of the moment. And then you get the camera on him, and he looks shook. They got to just get the running game going, get him comfortable, and then he gets into a rhythm.